In woodworking, there are so many different techniques. The MetalFab just feels like magic to me.
Hello everyone, I'm Abby. Today I'm in Toledo, Ohio, and today I'm so excited to visit the famous YouTuber David Pachito. His YouTube channel is Make Something. He used to be a really famous in woodworking and he stepped into the metalworking. So today I want to talk about his story, his journeys, and his creation. Welcome, David.
Hello.
Hey, David.
Nice meeting
meet
you. I am David from Make Something, and I mostly do woodworking, but I am starting to get into metalworking and combining that with what I do.
Then today we will introduce the story of David. Then let's go.
All right, let's go. I've been woodworking for about 13 years. We're in my studio here. I used to be a hobby photographer, and I went to go get my photos framed, and I realized how expensive to have somebody professionally frame my photos. So I wanted to do it myself. And so I started buying woodworking tools, and then I became really obsessed with woodworking and just went all in. And this is my second shop. I started in a little tiny basement. My hobby eventually became my job, and so now I make woodworking videos on YouTube full time. This is a project I just completed, so it combines my love of photography and woodworking. This is a photo that I took in Yellowstone on film and developed it myself, printed it out, and made this mid-century house-like frame for it. I took photos of brick that's around our house, and then I was able to pull that texture from those photos and then 3D print that on there and then paint it. This is another thing that I recently made, just this little cabinet here. There's a pop of color in there with the acrylic shelf, but this was a new technique that I tried out for the first time called kumiko. It's a Japanese joinery technique. A lot of the pieces were cut on the table saw, but to get the angles, I'm using chisels along with a little guide to get them perfectly fit into all of there. There's like 300 pieces in there total. In woodworking, there are so many different techniques that you'll never learn them all, and that's the beautiful thing about woodworking. I've dabbled in metalworking, but I wouldn't call myself a metal worker. This is a piece of wood that I found on the side of the road, and I wanted to make a base for it to stand up off of the platform. So this is just cut with an angle grinder and welded on there. Very basic metalworking. This is another art piece that I'm working on, where I'm taking a Casio kids toy keyboard and I'm going to take all the insides and recase it in metal and wood. And so with the MetalFab, I cut out this new face, so all these electronics will fit into this face and the buttons will poke through. And then I'm adding all kinds of other effects to it here, which I'm kind of wiring up now. And then it's going to have wood sides, and where the keys are, little pieces of wood here. The MetalFab is kind of like a game changer on what I can do. I can see in my head, I can now make in real life. So this will be an art piece, but it's also going to be a playable instrument. There is no cleanup on here. I didn't do any touch-ups after cutting on the MetalFab, where normally if I am taking an angle grinder and cutting metal with that or a plasma cutter, there's a lot of cleanup on the back and a lot of time. And that's one of the things that kind of turns me off to metalworking is after you do the work, there's still a whole bunch more work to do, but not with the laser. I can just cut this out and then move on to the next step. The MetalFab just feels like magic to me. I have the MetalFab here in the corner, and you can see a little bit of yesterday's project still in here. Before I had the MetalFab, I had traditional plasma cutter and a traditional welder, but I don't see me using it very much now that I have the MetalFab. I'm not an expert metal worker by any means, but when I would use the plasma cutter, the traditional plasma cutter to cut metal, I always had a hard time like dialing my settings. And so I'd get a lot of melted metal on the back of my pieces and a lot of cleanup. But using the MetalFab, you don't get that. There's all these presets that you can just say, I'm using 20th inch steel, and I use that preset and it cuts it perfectly. There's no cleanup. And then with the traditional welder, there's a skill with welding. And it's not a hard skill, but it is a skill nonetheless. And if you don't do metalworking every day or every week, you kind of have to relearn how to do that. But with the MetalFab, your welds are nice and clean. I can now approach my projects with a different mindset. I'm like, oh, I can make this out of wood, I can make this out of metal, combine the two, and I'm good to go. Where before, I was just limited to what I had. And so I can actually approach my projects in a completely different way now. This is the very first project I made with the MetalFab, this little outdoor table. So this was flat stock that I drew up in Adobe Illustrator and then brought that into the xTool studio, and I was able to cut it out and bend it into the shape that it is now. Where before, if I was using like a traditional welder, it would be a very bad weld because I'm not a good welder, and then I would have to take an angle grinder and clean up all the corners. I didn't have to do any of that when using the MetalFab laser welder. The seams were just perfect right off the bat and much less of a learning curve. So having the MetalFab in my arsenal of tools really opens up a lot of possibilities. This is the brand new xTool P3 CO2 laser, which I've been using lasers in my woodworking for a good 8 years now. This is now my favorite laser because it's 80 watts compared to the 50 watt laser that I was using before, and the pass-through and the conveyor belt makes, I can work on bigger pieces now. But this is the thing that kind of blew my mind working with this. So working with the Casio toy keyboard, I prototyped things out of wood using the laser before cutting into metal, because for me metal is expensive. So I prototyped the pieces to get the fit just right, and then I cut this piece out on the MetalFab. And what kind of blew my mind is the precision between the two machines is exact. That opens up some new possibilities. Knowing that the machines are perfectly calibrated and they cut the exact same size is a game changer for me. We're in the house. I've made so much furniture in the house that we're actually running out of room, but I made the counters here. We go into the dining room here. I made this wine rack, this little wine display, this wine rack, the kitchen table here, the cabinet here. There's another cabinet here. We're running out of space to put all of the stuff. This is this little side table I made entirely with the xTool P2. These are speakers that I custom made with speaker stands that are sculpted out of walnut.
And David, what's your future plan of your channel or yourself?
I want to continue making furniture, but I really want to focus on art. I've struggled with the term artist for a while now. For the longest time, I would say I am not an artist, but something has changed with me in the last couple of years where I just decided I am an artist, and that's what I want to be. What I want to do is somebody to be inspired by what I do. I'm like, oh, I can do that too. Or I just want to open up the creative possibilities for my viewers, and more importantly for myself. I just want to push my creative limits as far as I can go. I'm working towards an art show next year. I've got a few pieces ready to go, but I got a lot of sketches that I gotta work out between now and then.
Yeah, just like a preview. So everyone remember to attend the art show of David. Thanks for sharing, David.
Well, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
Then today's sharing is end. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.